Breaking news. A seventh American service member has died from injuries suffered in the opening days of the war with Iran. U.S. Central Command says the person was injured in an Iranian attack on U.S. troops in Saudi Arabia last Sunday. This is in addition to the 6 soldiers killed in Kuwait who returned to the U.S. yesterday in a dignified transfer. A U.S. official tells ABC News 9 service members are seriously wounded from attacks across the region. Meanwhile, civilians in Tehran are now being warned to protect themselves against acid and toxic rain following fires caused by Israeli strikes on an oil facility in Iran. Pockets of fires are still burning and clouds of black smoke can be seen covering parts of the city. This comes as a member of the group that will choose Iran's next supreme leader said publicly that the majority of the group favor the former leader's son, Mojtaba Khamenei. We should note this is not an official decision. Meanwhile, neighboring countries remaining on edge as they intercept incoming Iranian missiles and drones entering their airspace. ABC News chief international correspondent James Longman is in Erbil, Iraq with the latest. James, thank you for joining me. A lot of news to get to. We're going to start with what we know about that 7th U.S. service member who has now died.
Yeah, this is an individual who was injured on the first day of the war, it sounds like, in Saudi Arabia, so not the same place where those 6 other soldiers were killed. And we understand that this individual had been in the hospital being treated all week, but sadly died of their injuries. We haven't been given any other information. The military doesn't identify the dead before next of kin have been identified, but I'm sure we will find out who this person is and what the circumstances of their death were. At that ceremony, though, where Donald Trump received the bodies of the dead over from Kuwait, he did say that it was likely that the United States would suffer more casualties. And very sadly, this is now the 7th American to die in this war.
And James, we're hearing Iran could soon name a new leader, but you've been hearing from people inside Iran, including one man who says a leader similar to Khamenei would be even worse for the Iranian people. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, Mojtaba Khamenei, not a lot is known about him. He's 56 years old. He is the son of the now dead Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, rumored perhaps even to have been injured in that attack that killed his father and perhaps other members of his family. If he is chosen, it will be from among the 88 clerics, this council of experts. It's a little bit like the conclave in the Catholic Church. It's a group of theologians who lead the country and from among them choose a leader. But we've been trying to speak to people inside Iran. It's very difficult because there is an internet blackout, but we try to get messages out where we can. And pretty much the consensus is they don't want the regime to continue. Anybody who continues in the line of Ali Khamenei, for most people in Iran, would be a catastrophe for them. And I spoke to one person, we're calling him Hamid, a 55-year-old, managed to send us this message, and this is me reading the message. Have a listen.
The truly frightening possibility is that the United States might suddenly leave the Iranian people alone with these rulers. If that happens, these authorities could turn against the population even more violently. That is a terrifying scenario. I am not worried about myself anymore. I have already lost everything. My SIM cards and bank accounts have been blocked. I have been effectively forced out of work. At this point, death would almost feel like a relief. Sometimes I think it would be easier if they simply shot me and ended the hell they created. War destroys homes and lives, but in my view, something even worse than war is the continued rule of those who created this disaster.
So a pretty sobering message from Hamid, and it does strike a similar tone to the messages that we are getting from people inside the country. Some people do say that they are concerned about this ongoing operation. They're worried for their lives. Of course they are. They're watching bombs landing all around them. They are concerned about whether or not the United States has a plan for what will happen. They're worried about civilian infrastructure being damaged or perhaps targeted, rendering it useless, demolishing Iran's viability for the future post whatever regime, if the regime does fall, what would happen down the line. All of those things are concerns that Iranians have. But fundamentally, everybody wants the regime gone, and so many people will say to us, by whatever means necessary. Ike.
All right, James Longman, thank you for that reporting.